and welcome to another episode of Soft Signal. My name is Barun. I'm joined by Aditya, and today I think we were just going to discuss. There's a lot that's happened in cricket, so we wanted to break it down in certain segments, and we're going to start with the World Test Championship final, which is finally upon us. We've been talking about it for a long time, but it is this Friday, the 18th. So, what are your initial thoughts about the match?
Oh yeah,
First of all, hi and welcome. Sorry, I forgot to say hi.
no, that's okay. That's okay. And to your question about the initial thoughts of the match, yeah, I'm eagerly looking forward to it now. It's on us finally. This massive 2-year cycle of Test match cricket is culminating in what should be quite an interesting match uh, in in the UK. Uh, and although the thing that I'm not too pleased about is that it's just one match and not a series, because sometimes one match is not enough to identify which is the better side.
Yeah.
So I would have preferred it had it been a series of three test matches.
Yeah, it's like it was a weird cycle of two years. It was initially planned a certain way. Then of course COVID happened, so they had to cancel a bunch of series. And then I think they had some weird format in the end where they allotted points. I'm not really clear on the exact methodology. Like, yeah, I mean, I agree with your point about best of three maybe should have been a thing, but I think it's logistics also, which is an issue. And then do they play one match in a neutral venue, one match in, and
Yeah.
then one match each in each of those countries? So it's I think um, those were maybe some of the things that came up. But actually, Ravi Shastri did say it should be best of three. Maybe is that in anticipation of a loss because it's. I mean, New Zealand are looking, in my opinion, at least the stronger team for a couple of reasons. Firstly, they are actually playing a test match in England right now. They played. They're playing a two-match series, so they're definitely better suited to the conditions. And in general, I think their bowlers and their team is better suited to those conditions. What do you think? Um, do you think New Zealand are the favorites, or is it more a equal thing?
Yeah, I think the fact that they would have played two test matches before the finals is definitely an advantage to them.
Yeah,
Simply because they would have been used to the conditions, their batsmen would have been used to the condition, their bowlers would have been used to the conditions, and the ball as well.
yeah,
So I think they are better suited in terms of preparation for the match. Also, I think in general, New Zealand batsmen are more suited to those kind of conditions because they face similar conditions in New Zealand. So those things obviously give them a slight advantage. But that being said, this Indian team is not like the older Indian teams, and we saw that in Australia. And it's not just about the Australian series; they've been consistently good over a longer period of time now, right? So it's been 2 or 3 years now where you can legitimately say that this Indian team will not just turn up for a match; it'll turn up and also be competitive thanks to the kind of bowlers we have. Uh, so um, so for sure, I don't see this match being a one-sided match. Uh, Meaning, I don't see New Zealand just coming in and trouncing India just because they played two matches on in those conditions. Uh, but of course, that being said, I think New Zealand still has a slight advantage. But watch out for India's fast bowlers as always. I think they can still be quite a handful in those conditions, even though they would come off. They don't have as much practice as the New Zealand fast bowlers in those conditions.
yeah. I mean, I just hope they have. I know they're playing some intra squad matches and stuff. I don't know if it's because of quarantine or because of COVID rules, but I'm surprised they didn't have a couple of tour matches against a county side or something because they're literally going in pretty unprepared compared to them. It's a bit surprising and bit worrying. I think our Yeah, the key is our batsmen need to show up, need to see off the new ball, especially against an. I mean, I just read an scary article about Trent Bolt, who's looking forward to bowling with the Duke's ball, and I
Yeah.
mean, it's. I think that's a key for our openers. I think it's going to be Rohit Sharma and Agarwal opening, or
Shubman Gill maybe.
Shubman Gill. Yeah, Shubman Gill has not played in England. Neither of them have played in England before. So yeah, I think that's a key for them. If they can see off that new ball, get a good opening stand, then we should be okay. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, our bowlers will do the job. I think our bowlers should be on par, but our batting is where I worry about.
Yeah. Actually, none of the openers have played in England.
Oh yeah,
Like
Rohit
Rohit
has not played a test
Sharma has
in
not
England.
played a
Yeah.
test match in England. Or even if he has, he's batted down the order. And I
Yeah,
can't recall whether he was there in the team in 2014 or not. But I don't think he was there on the previous tour for sure.
yeah,
Uh, so actually, none of our openers has played a match in England. So that's going to be challenging for them, especially because they will probably discover how much the ball swings in England. So yeah, it's absolutely key, and we all know how important it is to get good starts in Test matches. If you go into bat first session 50 for three, and you're already on the back foot. So it's really important that the openers dig in. It's going to be a challenge, but again, I'm looking forward to that because if there's anything that this Indian team can do is and one of those things is to overcome challenges. They showed that in Australia as well. So
yeah,
it should be interesting to see how that goes.
yeah. I think I wanted. What do you think will be the if we win? Would it be a big deal? Is it on par with? It is an ICC tournament. I just don't get that feeling. I don't know why. Like the same. Like I'll be happy, of course, but I wouldn't be. I wouldn't feel the same way as if we won the World Cup, for example.
Yeah, you're right. I just think that the format of this World Test Championship is so long and so
Yeah,
drawn out that somewhere you tend to lose the relevance of the whole thing.
yeah.
Like actually, this World Test Championship started 2 years ago, three
With
years
the
ago.
Ashes, yeah, after the World
Exactly.
Cup, yeah,
Exactly. So 2 years ago, uh, so nobody's got that long a memory, right? To think
yeah,
about the fact and to sort of join the dots from 2 years ago. So it's kind of forgotten in most people's minds.
yeah,
So that's probably one problem with the format. But that being said, I wonder how they can actually make it a leaner or a more concise format, given the fact that Test cricket is going to be played across 5 days.
yeah,
And maybe one solution would be to just have three match series like always instead of having 5 match series like the Ashes, like or 4 match series like India, Australia, and India, England, and all. Maybe just always have 3 match series, and then for countries like Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, probably 2 match series because they need to take into account the revenues also.
that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
If India-England five-match series, I don't think BCCI or ECB would want to
Yeah.
reduce it to three
That's
matches.
true. So it's a tricky balance, right?
Yeah,
Because a 5 match series is really long. Of course, it's good for revenues, but at the same time, it elongates the World Test Championship so much that probably 3 years hence, nobody even realizes the impact that the first series had on the points table.
yeah,
So I guess that's why we probably don't get the same feeling as you would, for a T20 World Cup or a ODI World Cup.
yeah. And even those tournaments are like they happen, and that's the only thing that's happening.
Exactly.
There's a series, then there'll be some one days, T20s, some other, and then there'll be another series. So there's
A
no
World Cup in the middle of that as well.
yeah, so there's no continuity, which
Yeah.
doesn't give it the feel of a real tournament. Um, like even if they separate it into two divisions, like they have five teams and five and five. For example, if either India, imagine if India for whatever reason slip out of the top five, would BCCI be okay with them playing just Bangladesh and Sri Lanka for 2 years? I don't think so.
No.
Like, they would definitely want, and it's kind of detrimental to the game as well because bad teams should play better teams to get better. Like if they
Exactly.
just play amongst their own division, they don't improve.
And that's absolutely right. It kind of ties into the whole associate nations being part of the World Cup debate,
Yeah,
right? I mean, there are so many associate nations out there, but they're not good. None of them is good enough to beat any top eight team
yeah,
on its day. So I shouldn't say on their day, but on a consistent
yeah,
course of time. So uh, yeah, you're right. I think for the lesser teams to get better, they have to play the bigger teams. So therefore, this idea of having divisions within the top eight teams of Test cricket probably doesn't make sense. Um, I think though that they somehow need to find a way to shorten the format.
yeah,
If that means if that means sort of playing fewer Test matches, then probably that's the way to go.
yeah.
Um, but it needs to be, of course, balanced with the kind of revenues that are generated, because at the end of the day, that's key. That's key.
Yeah, cricket.
But yeah,
No, no, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, but all that being said, India and New Zealand are, well, according to the points table, at least the best two teams in the world right now. I'm not sure about this
Yeah.
because did New Zealand even play a Test match in India during this World Test
Mm,
Championship?
they
I
didn't play. They played in Sri Lanka, I think. That's the only subcontinent test they played.
exactly. So I don't see how you can call a team the second best or the best in the world if they've not played in all conditions.
Yeah.
Um, Remember, nobody plays in Pakistan, but that I can still understand because nobody plays in Pakistan, right?
Yeah.
It's not like some countries are playing and some are not. But at least New Zealand has to play in India. They have to uh, play in Sri Lanka or Bangladesh to actually say that they are the best or the second best.
Yeah.
And conversely, India needs to play in England, New Zealand, South Africa, and Australia, which, frankly speaking, they have done. So
I
that
mean,
works.
yeah, in this cycle, I think they only played in Australia though. Then they played in New Zealand. They lost that
But
series.
they lost. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In this cycle, you're right. They've not played in South Africa, and in England. So India's last tour of England in 2018 was not a part of this cycle, right?
Yeah.
So okay. But yeah, then,
Yeah.
then again, that's my point, right? All of them need to play in all conditions for this to work. So
Yeah.
there are few flaws, I think, in the whole system, but I guess nothing that cannot be sorted out.
Yeah, and then we'll but I'm still looking forward to the test. It'll be interesting. Hopefully they create some kind of atmosphere around it. I know ICC are trying very hard. If you see their social media handles, so let's see, and then hopefully they get a better idea for the next round of matches.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next topic, which we've been hinting at for a few weeks, but now it seems like the tour is finally going to go ahead. So it's the India tour of Sri Lanka for the 700th time, and this time it's of course different because all of the guys are going to be the main team, so to speak, is going to be in England. So the squad has just been announced, and Shikhar Dhawan is going to be captaining the squad, which kind of makes sense. I guess they could have had Bhuvaneshwar Kumar but I think Shikhar Dhawan is just one of the most senior cricketers, so that's how things work quite often in India. And then the rest of the squad is, I think, it seems like a lot of IPL performances have been rewarded. But what are your initial thoughts on the squad? Does it look good? And anyone you are surprised to see there, and anyone who you think um, should have been there instead?
Yeah. So I think first of all, I think it's amazing that India can put out such a strong squad as their second best team. I mean, this team has players who are so talented and so good that they can beat any other country's first 11.
Yeah,
So that's really amazing because it goes to show the depth that there is in Indian cricket. I think in terms of surprises in this squad, um, honestly, I'm not. I'm looking through the list right now, and of course, like you said, all IPL performances seem to have been rewarded. Although I will say that Chetan Sakaria is a interesting pick,
Yeah.
interesting choice. The few games that he played in the IPL for Rajasthan, he did look good, right? So you could see that there's a good left-arm bowler who's got some tricks up his sleeve, and he also bowls at a pretty lively pace. So good to see him in the squad. Uh, it clearly shows that they are trying to find a left-arm seamer, right? They tried the likes of Khalil Ahmad, who wasn't that successful
Yeah.
or that consistent, I should say. Jaydev Unadkat seems to have fallen out of favor, but okay, we could see that coming.
Yeah.
Although he seems to be a legend in the first class game in Ranji Trophy, he
That's
seems to have
right.
really picked up a few wickets. But I think his effectiveness uh, at the top level is probably a little lower. Plus, of course, they're investing in younger people, right? They tend to be averse picking people above 30 and handing them debuts. So I think it'll be interesting to see how Chetan Sakaria goes because, uh, like any good bowling attack, it's important to have a good left arm seamer as well.
Yeah.
So should be interesting to see how he goes.
Yeah, and I think he's a bit lucky because if Natarajan was fit, he would have probably been selected.
Absolutely.
And yeah, Shreyas Iyer is also, of course, still injured. Otherwise, the squad would have been even stronger. I'm just a bit surprised. I feel a bit bad for Tewatia. I think he was actually selected in the main squad. I mean, now we're calling this a main, and this is like almost India A, but he was selected in the India squad for the England T20s. He didn't play, but I think he was selected. And so for him not to be selected for this, what do we call it, substitute squad is a bit of a letdown, I guess.
Yeah, but personally, I'm not sure about Tewatia in general. You know, he had that amazing innings last year in the last
Yeah.
IPL. He had some good performances as well. I just don't see how he's better than any of the other all rounders in the team, though. So I'm not even comparing him to Jadeja and Washington Sundar, who are the first all rounders. But I don't see how he's better than Kunal Pandya, for
Mm.
example. I think he needs to improve. He needs to improve one of his two skills. Like I don't think he's a good enough batsman. Neither is he a good enough bowler. So he needs to improve one of them in order to actually push for selection. Is what I think. Also, I have a question for you. If Shreyas Iyer was selected in this squad, would he have been captain and not Shikhar Dhawan?
I think so. I mean, he's actually captained Delhi pretty well in IPL, so I would have made him captain. But I have a feeling that this is kind of a like a ego thing to Shikhar Dhawan. Also, they might maybe just doing it too sad because I don't think he's going to be in the India's main squad for for a while. I mean, not for a while. I don't think he's going to be there for much longer. So maybe this was a. But yeah, Shreyas would have been a better choice for captain for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, he would have replaced Manish Pandey. I mean, I don't. Manish Pandey is a player who's been given so many chances.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would have. I think Manish Pandey is also lucky. But who's the one player you're most excited to see in this? For me, it's Padikkal because just he's been such a revelation in the IPL and in this season also he had scored that great 100.
Right.
So yeah, I've been wanting to see him play for India for a while. So I'm definitely excited to see him. What about you?
I'm interested to see Varun Chakravarti. I like this idea of these mystery spinners.
Yeah,
Um, I don't think they can ever be good test match bowlers because in test matches you can easily just play them defensively and survive. But in the shorter format, I think mystery spinners are kind of effective because you cannot line them up, and so they end up taking wickets for you. So I'll be interested to see how it goes for Varun Chakravarti. Uh, it'll be interesting to see India produce a genuine mystery spinner, because we don't seem to do that.
Yeah.
So far, it's only been Sri Lanka and West Indies who produce these mystery spinners. So I'll be keen to see how Varun Chakravarti performs at this level. Uh, whether he can take wickets, whether he can contain the batsmen, and whether the batsmen themselves can read him or not. So
Yeah.
I'm keen to see how this tournament shapes up for him.
Yeah, and he's had bad luck. He was in the Australia squad and just had
Yeah.
injuries at the worst time. So will be good. I hope they get it's a squad of 20, but I hope they find a way to give everyone at least one game. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's the point of this tour in a way. So, and
Yeah.
Kuldeep Yadav is there as well, and we've touched upon his decline in previous podcasts. So I hope he gets a chance to regain some confidence.
Yeah.
Will be.
True.
I mean, I will still watch this series. If it was a regular India Sri Lanka one, I wouldn't have watched it. But now that is these fringe players, I will watch it. I think.
Yeah, yeah, I think so as well. I think for me, anyways, any form of cricket is welcome.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's more motivation to watch this, because you get to see some of the fringe players in the limelight. And who knows, maybe this could be a norm going forward,
Yeah.
right? With COVID and quarantine and these regulations being introduced on every series, it might not be surprising that in the future a lot of the countries choose to have two different teams for tests and ODIs, or I should say for tests and the limited overs internationals.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see how this shapes up.
Yeah. I think England have already been doing it for a while. In the last 2-3 years with their ODI team, they have completely different white ball and red ball teams, which they were able to do last year when they had this, like you said, the COVID restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but and then I think so it'll be interesting series to watch. So we'll look forward to it.
Yeah.
And the last topic we wanted to talk about. So there was a controversy with the New England bowler Ollie Robinson, who made his debut in the first test last week. There were a series of tweets that came out, which he had tweeted about 8 or 9 years ago when he was still a teenager. And tweets are extremely insensitive. They were sexist and racist tweets. But as a result of that, he's been suspended he was suspended for this one test, and now he's actually taken some time off. I guess maybe just to deal with it, and not sure exactly what's going on behind the scenes. So there's two schools of thought. Like one thing is that he was 18 or 19 at the time. Stuff like this, people should not be uh, tweeting, of course, or even expressing these thoughts. They're harmful. But he was 18 or 19. I mean, we've all said stupid things. Unfortunately, when you're a public figure, things get dug up. But yeah, what do you think? Is it too much of a big deal, or should people be held responsible for things like this?
Uh, so my own feel is that uh, yeah, he was 18 at the time when he made these tweets, and now he's 28, so
Yeah,
it's 26. It's 8 to 10 years ago. I think if they're going to dig up tweets from 8 to 10 years ago and punish someone on the basis of something they've done 8 to 10 years ago, then it's probably unwarranted. I think
yeah,
what they need to see is, in those 8 years, or 8 or 10 years from then to now, how has his behavior been in terms of sexism or racism, right?
yeah,
If there's a consistent repetition of those behaviors in these 8 to 10 years, okay, then definitely punishment is warranted, because you are a public figure and so you have a bigger responsibility than others. But to simply take one incident that happened 8 to 10 years ago and then punish someone now based on that, I think is completely unfair. Um, and again, he was just 18 at the time, right? So he was still clearly quite an immature guy. So
Yeah.
I think for me, it's kind of blown out of proportion. Um, and I can see what the ECB is trying to do. They're trying to set a benchmark here. They're trying to draw a line in the sand. But I just think that instead of taking one incident from 10 years ago, they need to look and see if in those 10 years, similar behaviors have been repeated or not. And if not, then move on. But yeah, that's my thought. The ECB doesn't think so, I guess.
It's a bit strange, right? Because how does this become a problem only when he's an international cricketer? It's an issue. If it's an issue, it's an issue for, like, he's been playing county cricket for years. So
Yeah.
it should have been brought up much before because it's serious. If it is so serious that they want to suspend him, why is it now? Why is it only serious once he plays international cricket? Like
That's a good point. Yeah.
like it's very hypocritical. They should either not bother or bother because it's still an issue. It's not like
Yeah.
if you commit a crime, you don't. It's not like 10 years later when you're convicted, right? You get convicted. I'm not saying this is a crime, but it's just that
Yeah.
trying to
Just
draw a
so
comparison.
it's an interesting point you raised because I think, like you said, so he was 18 when he did this. He's been playing county cricket since. So maybe it would be worth ECB to investigate his time in county cricket and try to see if he repeated these sort of behaviors in exchanges with teammates and peers during those years. Now, if he did not, then he did not. Then clearly you don't have to hold him responsible for something he did 10 years ago. Now, if he did, if he did exhibit some form of racism, even in conversation or
Yeah.
while playing for those counties, then for sure, you can reprimand him. And I'm pretty sure they can do that. I'm pretty sure they have the means to do that, uh, especially now because a few months ago there was a lot of talk about racism in county cricket.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if there was an incident involving Ollie Robinson in these 8 to 10 years, I'm sure it will come to the fore. If it does, then sure, punish him. If it doesn't, then honestly, no point digging up things that were said 10 years ago and punishing someone just to make an example out of all this.
Yeah, in a way, I think maybe he's even a scapegoat. Like how they made after the Australian ball tampering incident, where the cricket board went, in most people's opinion, way over the top with the 1 year bans and stuff. They were just trying to show that we are doing the right thing,
Yeah.
and they had that whole documentary about it and that test where it was kind of cringy in parts where they were trying to create a new culture and then
Yeah.
so it's I mean these things take time to heal and to address. You can't just have an overnight solution. So it's I think people are just trying to do the best thing they can. But yeah, it's reflective of our society in general, right? Now that people have to be so careful with what they say, because once you say something, it's out there for forever. Like people can dig up something. So I think players are now going to be much more careful, which is good in a way because then they can be held accountable for it later.
And they are public figures, like you said, so they have to be more responsible than the average person, because there are people who look up to these players and
Yeah.
kind of follow what they do and say. So they need to be careful, that is for sure. And yeah, from now on they need to think 10 times about what they put on the internet, because once it's on the internet, it's there forever.
Yep.
It's not it's irreversible. So yeah, they need to be careful as public figures for sure.
Okay, so I think that was all we wanted to cover for this episode. Really looking forward to the match. India, New Zealand, good to see some test cricket after a few months. And we will be recording next weekend actually while the match is going on. So maybe we'll have a lot more to. Maybe it will be in a very interesting stage of the match and we will have something to talk about, but we'll see how the match goes. Or maybe because it's in England, it might just be raining. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yes, thank you for listening and we will see you next week.
Yeah. See you next week and stay safe.